Boker Tov, today's daf is Daf Lamed Hey and Bava Basra. As we learn from Achenu Basis Israel and Sunnah Matzar Shivi, including all the soldiers, may they all come home safely and Hashem watch them all. So we actually saw Lamed Hey and Aleph yesterday, but we're going to take it again from there because we want to complete this sugya. So let's start repeating. Of course, this is repetition, but just to review it so we understand the end of the Gemara. At the 3 lines from the bottom of Lamed Dalet Amid Beis, say 2 people each claim that this land or this boat, whatever it was, belongs to them. Neither of them have any proof. They each claim, Reuben and Shimon both say, this belongs to me. So Rav Nachman Paskin called Mikbar. And we said yesterday, what does that mean? That's a psak halacha, and that whoever is stronger, either by proof, says Rashi, or by strength. At this point, there is no proof, so whoever takes it, takes it. And that's the psak. And whoever gets it, if Reuben got it, Shimon just can't go grab it again from him, back and forth. It doesn't work that way. Reuben is entitled to it until such time as further proof is brought. If nobody has any proof, then you leave it with Reuben. Now, the Gemara said, so you paskin that way that Reuben can take it, or Shimon, whoever's stronger. Says the Gemara, how is this different? Then if 2 people come along and each have a bill of sale that says that they bought this land or they received this land or his house, whatever it was, as a gift from Yankel, and they both have it, and they're both date stamped with the same day. Rashbam says in Yerushalayim they even put the hours, but when in most places where they don't put the hours, it's not time stamped, it's just date stamped. So no matter when it was, even if you have proof that one got it in the morning, one got it in the afternoon, whoever gave it to one of them. He may be meant to change his mind with the guy that he gave it to later or whatever. But over there we say the halach is the Rav says you split it. Shmuel says it depends on the discretion of the judge. The judge decides whoever he was closer to. So why don't you say the same thing over here? Why do you say they're called on bar? We withdraw. We recuse ourselves. We cannot judge. Let you guys fight it out, and whoever's stronger will take it. But there we say Rav says Yachlok and Shmuel says that should have died. So Gemara says Hasim like Milsa over there. There's no further proof that can be brought. Each one has a star. That's as good as you're going to get. And they're both equal. So it's nothing you can do except say either split it or let the judge decide, whoever by his discretion thinks that the original owner, Yankel, wanted to give it to. But over here, each one claims that it's mine, but nobody has any proof. No, there's nothing to substantiate either claim. So we say, listen, maybe it'll be decided later on. For right now, we withdraw. Whoever's stronger takes it right now, and then we'll see later on. It's a difficult concept to understand, because it's one thing to say we recuse ourselves, another one to say, we recuse ourselves and whoever's stronger takes it. But that's what Nachman says. Oh, you can make him in a milsa. Here, it might be determined later on by proof. Okay, that's one kash from Rav Nachman that's answered. Again, Rav Nachman is the posek. We always pass like Rav Nachman, or in most cases we pass like Rav Nachman. Let's say you never say always. How is this different than the case of Machlok Parvachim, or the famous case where you exchanged, Reuben gave his para for Shimon's chamor, and as soon as Reuben makes a mashicha, makes a kinyan on the chamor, the para goes to Shimon. The para goes to Shimon. The older, but the para gave birth, or mocher shifchasa the older, or he sold his shipper. That could be with cash. Machlok para v'chamor, we're talking about a chalipin, where you're exchanging one for the other, and as soon as he pulls the chamor, nobody's standing by the para. We don't know, and we see the para is in a place which is a neutral place which doesn't belong to anybody, like an agam. So there's no chazaka. The older, you sold your shipper to somebody. She's not here right now, and she gave birth. And each one claims that they gave birth to that the shipper gave birth, or the par gave birth while it was in his rishus. The seller says that would be Reuben would say that she gave birth before we made the exchange, before I sold it to you. And the other one claims, Shimon says that it's from the time that I bought it that she gave birth belongs to me. There we also say Yachlok, or at least according to some place. So why over there do we say Yachlok? We don't say it again. Each one has a financial interest over here, because each one owned the para at a certain point in time, either before or after the sale, or each one owned the ship before or after the sale. So each one has more of a claim. But over here, it's either one or the other. Either mar lo demar, either mar lo lemar. Question is, who does this house belong to, or who did the boat belong to? Did it belong to one or the other? It wasn't like one sold it to the other. Each one says it was mine. That's it. It always belonged to me. Rashbam says, each one claims it was in my family forever. And we explained, like Rashbam said, that it was always my family's possession. There's no, it never exchanged hands. And when one of them is lying, one of them is telling the truth. So we say Kol Dam Bar, as we said yesterday also, Kol Dam Bar, because the idea is that, what's the spark of Kol Dam Bar? Because the odds are that the person who it really belongs to will make a greater effort to take possession. Right? Now, that's right, that the person who it belongs to, he'll make a greater effort to grab it, to hold on to it. Yeah, I forgot where we saw that. We saw that svara yesterday, either in the Ritva, or I guess in the Ritva, right? Neither has they don't both have a claim on this item, whereas in the case of the land with the shtar, they both had a shtar, they both have a legitimate claim. It's clear they both have a legitimate claim. And in the case of Dror at the moment, in the case of the par and the chamor and the shivcha, they're clearly each one had a claim. You know, I certainly have a claim here. I claim that it was born in my rishus. You claim it was born in their rishus. But over here, it's either one or the other. So we say Hilchos Rav Nachman, and the Ritva says over here. So Idamar Hilchos Rav Nachman, the Ritva says that. Ulamadnu, he says the lower meaning called them bar elabel tafsi. Where do we say called them bar when nobody has grabbed it? Remember, saw yesterday where two people were fighting over a boat, and one said to the court, "Please seize it, because I'm afraid he's going to seize it. So please, court, will the good court please seize this boat until I can bring proof, because he's afraid the other guy is going to cheat and take it." So we said over there, the court shouldn't take it, because maybe he's just seizing it so the other guy shouldn't get it either, and the other guy's a legitimate owner. So the court shouldn't seize it, and if it does seize it, it shouldn't release it, because unless he has proof, you don't release it. The court doesn't have possession of something and say, "Okay, here, guys, you fight it out." It's one thing to say, you both have no claims, you both have no proof, we can't see one or the other, so we're not going to deal with the case. You guys fight it out. Whoever takes it first will get it. But it's another thing for the court to hand them the item. That we don't say. So he says here in the halacha like Rav Nachman is called on bar lemanu. Don't be called the bar ela b'delo tafsi. When nobody, the Bezdin had not seized it. And it's possible that in the future there will be proof. Each one claims it belonged to his family, right? There's no proof right now. No, either way, it's not like they each have a real claim of I have a shtar that I bought it. You have a shtar, you bought it on the same day, so there's a real claim there. Each one has a real claim, so the Bezdin could possibly split it or let the judge decide. Or in the case of the par and the chamor, the machlok par and chamor, each one has a claim. It was born in my rishus. There's a legitimate claim there. But if each one just says, and we know it did belong to the para, the para did belong to Reuben originally, now belongs to Shimon. The shifka originally belonged to Reuben, now belongs to Shimon. So they each have a legitimate say over here. But when two people come along and say with no proof whatsoever, this was always this boat or this house was always in my family, and he says it was always in his family, no proof is rendered for either one of them. There's no proof at all. No, but just both claiming something. We don't know. Maybe it doesn't even belong to either one of them, right? Maybe they know that a guy died and he had no yorshim. It was a ger, let's say, no yorshim, no next of kin, and they each says, "Okay, it belonged to me," because nobody else has any proof. So we don't know what's going on over there. So Rav Nachman says, yeah, Kol Dam Bar, when it could be proved later on, maybe later on somebody will bring proof. But to say split it now, why should you split it between these two guys? Neither one of them has a real claim other than it belonged to my family. If any proof, it's not like the case where each guy had a shtar or each guy was known. I sold him the para and he sold me the chamor. We exchanged a para for chamor. I sold him the shifra. That's all agreed. We're all agreed that originally he owned the shifra. Originally he owned the shifra. Later, the question is, when was the baby born? So they each had somewhat of a claim over here. There's something there. They each had a financial interest in it, at least at some point. But over here, where there's no proof at all, there's no indication at all. Two guys just come along and say, this boat belonged to me. It was always my family. This house, this field always belonged to me. No proof whatsoever. Could be very well that it didn't belong to either one of them. That's what the Ritva says. And therefore we say called the Olam Bar, but not otherwise. Okay, I think it was in Tosis. I forgot who said yesterday. We said that we brought that down, that the odds are, maybe Rashbam said it, the odds are that when you say called Olam Bar, that the one who really belongs to will make a greater effort to take it. And that's why we say called Olam Bar is a legitimate psak of the Bezdin. Now, Amri Nardo, the third line now on Lamed Hamid Beis. Amri Nardo. Let's say a third guy shows up. In this case, where each guy said it belonged to my family, but there's no proof. And a third guy shows up and he says, well, he took it. These two guys are claiming, it each belonged to them. And a third guy came and he grabbed it. He grabbed it away from one of them or from neither one of them. We can't take it away from him. Why? The Tani Rav Chia, Gazlan Shel Rabim, Lav Shmei Gazlan. So the way the Nardoi said is that if you steal from the tzibur, it doesn't really belong to anybody. And therefore, you're not a Gazlan. So what do we mean by that? So Rashbam says over here, right, even where we are in the Rashbam, yeah, he's not a nice fella. He just took it. He just took it. He says, you guys have no claim either. I took it. So he's not but you can't take it out. When he says Lav Shmei Gazlan, doesn't mean that he's a nice guy. He's clearly not a nice fella. He just came along and grabbed. These two guys were claiming something, claiming the boat, let's say, and he came along and he took it. What right does he have? Nothing. But also, you can't take it away from him. Maybe the other guys have no claim either. Lav Shmei Gazlan, Rashbam says, you can't take it away. That's what Nardoi said. Rav Ashi says, no. L'olam Shmei Gazlan. Right? Since he has no claim, other than he says, I'm just taking it. And you do take it away from them. And he's like Gazlan. You take it away from them, and you give it to those two guys who originally claimed it. Sheshlam times up. The other two guys at least said it belonged to my family. It was my father's. Okay, that's a claim. This guy just came along and he took it. He has no claim. So that's not good. So he is a Gazlan. Rav says he is a Gazlan. You take it away from him, you don't let him take it. Each of these two guys had a claim. No proof, but they had a claim. It belongs to me, belongs to me. This is my family. This guy just came in and grabbed it. You do take away. There's a lotion of la shmei Gazlan. What does that mean? Well, my lo shmei Gazlan, lo shavam. Now he's a Gazlan. The pasuk says, "Hey, Gazlan, you got to return it." If you steal something from somebody, and how do you do kapara? You could say, "God, please forgive me. I'll never do it again." But there's no kapara until you return it, right? If I took your wallet and I didn't give it back to you, I can't. That's not the atonement. I have to give it back to you. Now, what happened? This third guy who came along from the street and just took it. Who is he returning it to? Let's assume that Reuben and Shimon, the two guys who originally fought for it, each guy claiming it was his father's, one of them is a legitimate owner, let's say. And this third guy came along and he took it. Who is he returning it to? But he didn't return it to once he stole it, he has an obligation to return it to the original owner, and he can't do that. So yes, we do take it away from him. He gives it to Bezdin, but that's not a full kapara. He was not Makayim Beishivas Exel Shagasa because he got to return it to the owner. We don't know who the owner is, so maybe he didn't fulfill it. That's what we mean. Milo Shmei Gazlan Shlo Nikla Shaban. That he's not able to return it properly. Take a look on Rashbam in the narrow lines, right, even where we are. Milo Shmei Gazlan, they come up here. Lahakula. It's not a kula ba. Lepatum Lashalan. In other words, he's not a Gazlan. We're making it easier for him. We're not coming to tell me that he doesn't have to give it back. We're not saying, he's not a Gazlan. Of course he's a Gazlan. He took something he shouldn't have taken. He has no claim at all. The other guys have a claim. It's not that we're trying to be making so you don't have to return it. No, he doesn't get a kapara. What's the lesson? Yeah, lo miskaper hashava. Giving it back to the bezin is not a kapara. He doesn't know who to return it to. The so once it's in his hands, you got to return it to the owner. Just say, listen, I stole it. I came into shul one day. I saw somebody's tefillin. I stole the tefillin. I stole them. Then I said, you know what? I'll give it back. I changed my mind, and I left it somewhere in the shul. Hefker. I left it outside in the pergola or whatever. That's not returning it. You stole from somebody, you got to return it. So he didn't return it. So they say, okay, I'll give it back to these two guys and let them fight it out. That's not a proper return. Once you stole it, you got to return it to the owner. They could have asking it up. We said if you grab it, like Bezin said, we said in Bezin before, even if Bezin seizes it, they can't just say give it back and fight it out. That's not a halacha. You don't do that. Once you grab it, you got to return it to the right person, or don't return it at all. So here, he's got to return it to the Bezin, but he's not going to. There we talk about Bezin. Even if Bezin took it legitimately, they shouldn't have. But let's say they both agreed. Let's say both Reuben and Shimon said to Bezin, take it. And then they couldn't prove it, so Bezin doesn't throw it out to them and say, "Okay, boys, fight it out." Once they seize it, here it's even worse because you stole it. You took it, by exile. You took it unlawfully you grabbed it. Now you got to return it, he doesn't know to return it to. We said that the onus for stealing, let's say if you have an illegitimate a scale that's broken, or or the meters, the measure you measure out, you ask somebody, you sell somebody a liter of shemen and you give them 3/4 of a liter, and that's what you do for all of them. You got, this is a liter bottle, and he measures out to everybody and he sells to the public, and he stole from all these people. How do you return it? Yeah, how do you return to all these people? You don't even know who you took it from. So there, the onus is worse there because of rice, because they buy a rice, you could do tshuva. Over here, you can't do tshuva until you return everybody's loss. Like a person who stole that stock a box or stole from the rabbin, from the tzibur. How do you do tshuva? Yes, you do kind deeds, but it's not a proper tshuva until you return all your stuff. So that's what it means over here. If a third guy came along, Nardari says, right, and because it's not really a goslin. But Rav Ashi says, we pass like Rav Ashi, no, he's a goslin. Of course he's a goslin. He's got to return it. It means that he's not a goslin in the sense that he's not able to return it properly. Now we're going to go back to the first Mishnah in the parak. What do we say? Chaskas abatim. How do you make a chazaka for 3 years? And what is the chazaka? It is proof of purchase, lacking your shtar. Right? We're talking about buying something like real estate, or land, or an evet knani. In a case like that, right? Normally, if you're talking about metaltalin, you have an iPhone or a mouse or a computer or something that you can hold on to. Whoever is holding it, the assumption belongs to them. But when it comes to real estate, we'll use the general idea of real estate karka, you have to have proof that it belongs to you. Now, what's your proof? Normally, you have a shtar, or if it was in your family forever, you have proof that it was in your family. You have Adam that knows it was in your family, or you have original deed, right? Or it's registered in the Talmud. If you don't have the deed, but you were on the land 3 years, and you uncontested and uninterrupted, remember it's uninterrupted, uncontested land for 3 years, and you say you bought it, you have a claim. I bought it, I inherited it, somebody gave it to me as a gift, and I don't have the shtar anymore because 3 years has passed. So that's a chazaka. And as we're going to point out today, we've mentioned it several times before, what is the way that the chazaka is broken? If the person who protests, right, the claimant, says, it's mine. What are you doing on my land? What are you doing on my boat? What are you doing? All these cases, what are you doing in these? What are you doing here? The claimant says he can get around it by saying, it wasn't uninterrupted, it wasn't uncontested. I protested last year and I said, what are you doing on my land? That's contesting it. So it's not it's got to be 3 years consecutive uncontested. If you contested it, it's not. So what is the guy supposed to do if you contested? Let's say Reuben sold the field to Shimon legitimately, and Shimon bought it, and he has a shtar. And it's hard for him to keep the shtar for 3 years. Normally you don't. But Reuben, after 2 years, comes and he says, hey, you're on my land. What are you doing here? He's all got the shtar. Okay, but he contested. Now, the 3rd year has passed, and now it's been contested after the second year. But he denies maybe that it was contested. He said, "Oh yeah, I don't remember you coming to me and protesting anything." Maybe if there's Adam, fine. Then you say, but let's say he has no Adam. So then it's up to the buyer to hold on to his shtar for longer. It's not like after 3 years, throw it out. There's no law that you have to keep it. If it's been contested, make sure you keep it for 10 years or 20 years, because the guy might contest it, right? If the guy could claim that he contested it. So once it's contested, then the buyer has an obligation. If it's not contested, the guy says, okay, I didn't hear anything about it. I bought it legitimately. 3 years has passed. I thought I had the shtar. It's with my papers here. I must have lost it. After 3 years, we say, okay, it's legitimate that you lost it. As long as you claim that you bought it, you have a legitimate claim, and you've been here for 3 years, and you have proof you've been here for 3 years, day to day. You've been here 3 years uninterrupted, uncontested. That's fine. But if it was contested, you better hold on to your shtar, because what else are you going to have? You don't have a chazak anymore. The chazak is gone. So how do you prove it? If Shimon did indeed buy it, he has to hold on to his shtar. All right, says the Gemara at the 2.67 lines from the top of the page. That's what the Mishnah said. You got to have the chazaka back on Daf Chavches. You have to keep it all these things. day to day. You got to keep a full 3 years. Amar Baba. Either are there cases where you don't need 3 years? Okay, so Rav Abba says like this: let's say the claimant himself, the guy who claims he's the owner, not the guy who's on the land. The claimant, Reuben, let's say, Shimon's on the land. Reuben says, "What are you doing on my land?" But there's proof that Reuben had helped Shimon carry some of the fruit into his house after he bought it within the 3 years. Let's say Reuben himself helped Shimon gather the fruits, son of the payer, a basket of fruits, then that's proof by itself. You don't need 3 years. If you have proof that Reuben, a few months after Reuben sold the field to Shimon, Reuben was helping Shimon gather in the fruits into Shimon's barn or his house or his silo or whatever, that's good enough. You don't need 3 years. Okay. But if Reuben claims, now, this morning I was helping because he's my sharecropper. He never bought the land from me, right? He never bought it. I own the land. He's a sharecropper. He gets 20, 30, 40, 50%. I was helping him take the fruits of the house. That's a legitimate claim. So then you would need a chazakah, right? That's only within 3 years of Allah. After 3 years, he can't make any claim, right? After 3 years have passed, and the Shimon doesn't have the shtar, I have a chazakah. It was uncontested. I have a chazakah that it was uncontested and uninterrupted. Then Reuben has no claim. If I understand something, let's say Reuben appointed Shimon, made a deal with him to be a sharecropper for 20 years. Right? You didn't buy the land. Shimon didn't buy the land. Shimon was simply a sharecropper. He gets to work the land and take half the fruits or whatever. So say, what should Reuben do? What should Reuben do? In other words, if Shimon's on the land for 3 years uncontested, right? 3 consecutive years uncontested, he can always say, I bought it from you and I've been here for 3 years. I have a chazak, it's mine. What is Reuben supposed to do to protect his own rights if Reuben's really the owner? Reuben's the owner. How is he supposed to protect himself? It's one thing if you say if he says, I sold you the land, or if he never sold him the land, right? If he never really sold him the land, then Shimon can't say, I bought the land, where's your shtar? Okay, after 3 years have gone by, then you should have protested. If the guy's on your land for 3 years and he didn't sell it, you should have protested. But let's say he's on your land legitimately because he's your sharecropper, and he's there for 20 years, and he says, you come to say, listen, okay, 20 years is up, it's time to retire. No, it's my land. I bought it from you. I bought it from you 20 years ago. I've been here for 20 years. So how is Reuben supposed to protect himself? He went down there for payers, meaning if he put him on the land legitimately, he should have protested. Every 3 years, he should have lodged a protest in front of him and say, you know what, this guy's on my land, but he's legitimately there, but he didn't buy it. He's just there for the fruits. He's entitled. He's a sharecropper, right? And that's legitimate. Rashbam explains, right? Rashbam explains he should have protested, and that's a protest to say, listen, what's my protest? My protest, I'm saying this isn't your land. You should know. And if it is your land, if you think it is your land, you should hold on to your shtar. But you really don't have a shtar. All you have is if Reuben's claim is you're simply a sharecropper, I'm protesting. It's not uncontested. Every 3 years, I'm protesting. So you never have a consecutive 3 years without my protest. And if you did really buy it, if you really bought it, then Shimon should have held on to a shtar. Dilo temahachi, right? If you don't say this, if you don't say that's what he has to do, remember we learned back in Bamitzia, you can't take ribbit. For example, let's say you have a malva and a lova. The malva lent the lova $1,000, let's say $10,000. Lent him $10,000. Okay. The lova has to put up some collateral. He says, okay, take my field, right? My field will be my mortgage. You hold on to the field. Now, okay, if he has to pay back the $10,000 after 10 years, is the malva allowed to eat the payros from the field? No, that would be rebit, right? Be interest, right? Getting the $10,000 plus all the fruits. However, there's a deal called mashkanta de surah that they made a regulation in surah in that town. They said, you know what, you could do like this. I'll lend you $10,000 for 10 years, and I'll take your field. I'm the malva. I'll take the field for 10 years, and every year we'll deduct $1,000. Why $1,000? So at the end of 10 years, you're paid off, right? Is that legitimate? Hey, well, maybe the payers I'm going to eat every year is more than $1,000 worth. That would be ribbit. What wouldn't it be? Yes, but it also might be less than $1,000. You might have a bad crop. So therefore, it's equally it's an equal risk to both the malva and the low, but that's not ribbit. It's certainly not ribbit oraisa because he didn't specify I'm taking $10,000 and I'm going to get back $11,000. It's not ribbit ksutza, but it's not even ribbit drabanan because we don't know that it's going to be more. You might get $1,000 worth of fruit every year. You might get more. You might get less. That's a legitimate deal. Okay, but let's say you do that deal. So what happens? The malva gives him $10,000, and he tells the loba after 10 years, I'm going to take your field as a mortgage for the 10 years. After 10 years, it's paid off. Okay. Now, what happens if after 10 years, the malva says, this is my land. I've been on the land for 10 years, right? What do you mean? But there's an IOU. The malva will hide the IOU. In whose hands is the IOU? The malva, right? The malva says, he hides rips it up, puts it aside. Says, I've been on the land for 10 years. I bought it from you, right? What are you going to do there? Hani mashkanta the surah, in this case the kasab, but it's written in the Meshlam Shan in LA, when these years are over, these 10 years are over, take below kesef, you take your land back without any money. In other words, I'll give I let you $10,000 for 10 years. At the end of 10 years, you get your land back and you don't have to pay anything back because I deducted $1,000 per year. How do you do that? If the malva now hides the IOU, the shtar that shows the mortgage, if he hides it, the malva could say, I bought it from you 10 years ago. I got it. How does the lover now protect himself from that? Right? The lover legitimately went into the deal. Oh, good, I get the $10,000 now. I need the $10,000 to buy something, right? And I give him my land. But after 10 years, how does the lover protect himself from the malva? Would he be believed? And if he would be believed, how does if the malva claims after 10 years the land is the malva's, right? Would he be believed? So with the rabbis make a regulation, this which would come to a illegitimate loss for the loba. How could you do that? Ella, you should have protested. In other words, the loba is to protest every 3 years in front of Adam to make sure that he is protesting and say, listen, you're on my land as part of the mortgage, right? But it doesn't belong to you. He's got to protest within every 3 years. That's what you have to do. So that's what you have to do too. So if the owner of the field, in our case, in the Mishkan Surah, it's the lova, or in our case, it's the owner who gave rights, sharecropping rights to Shimon. The Reuben gave sharecropping rights to Shimon. He's got to protest every 3 years and say, listen, you're on my land. You're on my land, and I'm going to claim for you. And Rashbam says the point over here is that later on we're going to learn in a few days that what is the macha? What is the macha? What's the protest? You're on my land, and tomorrow I'm going to take you to court and get my land back. But here we're saying you're on my land legitimately for the fruits, but not for the karka. The land is mine. You're on here for the fruit. Is that a macha? Yes. You see over here it is in the third of the wide lines in Rashbam. Take a look in the third of the wide lines in Rashbam. I'm making a partial protest. I'm protesting the karka mode of the Paris. If you say that's not a macha, how does the mashkanta basura work? Right? You say that the lova got the $10,000 and he gave him the field. Well, he's got to protest every 3 years and say, listen, the field is mine. You're entitled to the Paris every year, and we're going to deduct $1,000, but the field is mine. That's also a macha. You can't say macha is only I'm going to protest you. You have no rights on this field. You're a goslin, right? Remember, what are you doing on this field? You're a goslin. You're a crook. He's not a goslin. He's there legitimately, but he's only there for the fruits, not for the karka. That's also a macha. Okay, says the Gemara that we're at the 5 lines from the bottom of the Gemara. I'm even a Rav. A goy has no rights of chazaka. What is a chazaka? Chazaka, we said, is 3 years, right? 3 years uncontested, uninterrupted. That's a chazaka. What is that? It's a proof of purchase. It's not a claim. You have to have a claim. If you just say I squatted, that's not a claim. You have to have a claim. Can the goy have such a claim? No. Why? Because stam gazlanim, Rashbam says 6 lines from the bottom of the page and all the way at the bottom of the page. Stam goy, stam akum is gazlanim, maybe Yisrael Yoreh. Guys, usually the Jews are afraid to argue with the goyim, especially when the goyim were in charge, right? So they're afraid to argue with them. Therefore, we didn't make a chazaka. What is a chazaka? I've been on the land for 3 years. Why didn't you protest? Should have said something. If you didn't protest, it's proof that it's mine. With a guy can't say that. I've been on land for 3 years. I didn't protest because I'm afraid of the guy, right? We all grew up being afraid of the guy, right? That's how we grew up. So I'm afraid of the guy. That's why I didn't protest. Therefore, his chazaka is not a chazaka. You know why I didn't argue? Because I was afraid you were going to take a gun and shoot me. So that's why I didn't make chazaka. Therefore, if a guy bought something from a Jew, he has to show a star, better hold on to that bill of sale, because a chazaka means nothing. So therefore, let's say there was land that belonged to a Jewish family. The Friedmans owned this land. They sold it to a guy, supposedly. And I went and I bought it from the guy, right? I bought it from the guy. I don't know if he sold legitimately. Not the guy told me he bought it from you guys, right? I bought it from him. Then I'm there for 3 years. What's my claim? I bought it from the guy. The guy has no claim unless he has a star. So Amar Rav Yehuda Marav Yisrael about Machmas Akum, 4 or 5 lines from the bottom of the page of the Gemara. If a Jew comes based on the rights of a guy, in other words, I bought it from this guy. He's like, I'm no better than the Akum, right? Just like a guy has no chazaka. Why? Because 3 years on the property does not prove a purchase. It could be that the Jew is just afraid to argue with him. If I claim I bought it from the guy, he said he bought it from you, also means nothing. So Rava says, first, this seems to be strange what Rava says. If the Yisrael says that the third Yisrael, let's say me, I bought it from the guy who bought it from the Friedmans, if he tells me, the guy told me, the Friedmans come now to me, I've been on the land for 3 years. What am I doing on the land? I said I bought it from the guy. He said he bought it from you, right? So Muhammad is believed. He is believed because I said I bought it from the guy. So the Gemara says right away, what do you mean you bought it from the guy? If there's no proof that the guy bought it, what does that mean? The Gemara says right away, the ilu, what's here? Say ilu Omar Akum. If the Akum says himself, he's not believed. If the guy says, I bought it, right? I bought it. No, it doesn't mean if you have a chazaka, a guy doesn't have a chazaka, right? So if the guy says something himself, he wouldn't believe. The ilu Amar Yisrael Mishmei Dakum. If the Yisrael says, well, the guy told me that he bought it, and then the Yisrael would be believed. Why is he any better than the guy? If the guy's not believed, why am I believed? If I say I bought it from the guy, who said he bought it from you? We don't believe the guy, so why should we believe you? Elam Rava Sarava right away retracted. Now Rava says no. The Amar Yisrael, if I'm the Jew and I bought it from the guy, I say, I saw you sell, you, Mr. Friedman, I saw you sell the property to the guy. I saw it. I was a witness to it. And then I bought it from the guy. I saw you sell it to him, and then I bought it from him. That's legitimate. Why am I believed? That's if I have a chazak of 3 years, I don't have a star. My star is worthless because I bought it from the guy. But if I saw you sell it to the guy and I bought it from him, when I have a chazaka, I believe Migadi boy Amalek, as I could have said, I could have said I bought it from you. That's amigo. I have amigo. I could have said I bought it from you. Since I said I could have bought it from you, and I've been here for 3 years. So if I say I bought it from the guy who I saw bought it from you, that's legitimate too. Rav Yehuda says, now we had this Gemara the other day on the Gimel. Haiman denakit magla v'tuvila. If let's say I'm coming into somebody else's field and I'm holding on a sickle or a pruning knife, whatever, and a rope or a basket, and I'm going to cut down his tree. The doctor, I'm going down to trim his tree and take his fruits off. There's often I bought the fruits. The guy, I walk into a field and I say, hey, and he says, hey, what, isn't that Jim's field? He says, yeah, I bought the fruits from him. He's believed, Muhammad, right? My time, but what's the reason why he's believed? Says my time. A person would have the chutzpah to just walk in somebody else's field and cut it down. If the other person says, hey, what are you doing on my field? You can't just go fight him. If he says it's his field and you have no proof of purchase, obviously you can't prove it. But if he just says there's nobody there, but a neighbor says, hey, what are you doing on that field? Oh, I brought the rights to buy from him. Stamazah, he's believed. Now, chazaka has to be, Rashbam points out, you have to make a chazaka. What does that mean? I've been occupying the land in the normal way it's occupied. Meaning, we had before, remember, if it's a store, right, that's only open during daylight hours, you're not expected to be there at night, right? If it's a field, you're expected to work the field. If it's a house, you're expected to live in the house day and night. You have to have proof to that. You're supposed to live in it the way normally people live in it. Now, if you, though, occupy it in an unnatural fashion, or not the way an owner would take care of it, then it doesn't mean anything. So here he says like this. What happened was people who had fields that abutted on the forest, and there would be wild animals coming to the forest. They didn't want the animals to come into their property. So outside their fence, within their own territory, they set up a fence, and outside that fence, they threw seeds there for wild stuff to grow, so that the wild animals would eat that stuff and not penetrate into their own field. So let's say a person made a chazaka on that area, outside of my fence, in an area that I allotted for wild animals. You put feed there for wild animals or plants or whatever for them to eat, because you don't want them coming into your real crops. So if you made a chazaka on that area outside, that's not a chazaka, because that's not normally the way people.
It's not a chazaka for
any of it. Well, I mean, it's not a chazaka it's not a chazaka at all, because for the wild land, because I assigned it to wild land. I don't care what in other words, I expect it to be like Hefker. I leave that area for anybody to take. Pardon?
If it's Hefker, you can claim.
No, it's not really. He's not mafkir. He just means that he's not makbid if animals come. I'm not makbid who goes over there. I'm not makbid about that land, because the wild animals eat that. I assigned it for wild animals for anybody. It's part of his own land. That's right. He's made it like a public area. So it's like a buffer zone, and it's a public area. So I assigned it for that. In other words, I wouldn't protest if you're there. The whole idea is that normally, if you occupy something if you're an illegitimate occupier, I will protest. But over here, I made that area for the public, so to speak. So I'm not going to protest my time. Whatever I plant there, whatever seeds I throw there, the wild animals are going to eat. So I don't really care. So I'm not going to protest. Another one. Let's say the person who occupied it. I'm not worried about. I have this field. It's a tree field. I planted all new trees there. First 3 years is Arla, right? So somebody came and took the field for 3 years, and I didn't protest. You know why I didn't protest? Because it's Arla. If he wants to eat the Arla, it's Arla. I wouldn't protest because I don't care about it. That's also not a chazaka. Now, Arla and Klein were usher to eat, right? They're usher by no. Shvius is hefker to everybody. So it's again, if my field, if let's say a year goes by, or one of the 3 years was a year of shvius, of shmita, when anybody could come and eat it, that's not a chazaka, because I wouldn't protest. That's normal. I wouldn't bother protesting. Also, it's not a chazaka. Let's say the occupier who's on the field didn't let the crops grow to fruition, didn't let them grow out to be ripe. He would cut them down early, like fodder, they give to their animals. That's also not a chazaka, because he's saying, I'm going to steal the land for a half a year or a year until they notice, and I'll cut down whatever I can before he notices it, before it fully grows. Also not a chazaka. Amrava ve'id betzavar mechuza kaima have chazaka. Tzavar mechuzah means in the neck of mechuzah, in that area outside mechuzah. Rashbam says that's it's like a valley near mechuzah. It's a chazaka. Why? Because they're very rich there, and they don't even bother with the crops letting them grow. They have a lot of animals, and they also normally cut those down at a lower stage, and that's the normal way that they treat the land. So if somebody did the land in the same way, if somebody occupied land the same way, that is mechuzah. Again, the whole idea is that it has to be machzik and a machzik inchi. You have to occupy it the way normal people who have that land would occupy it, meaning they don't care about Arla, Shvius, and Klein. That means that they would take the land. They would say, what are you doing on my land? What are you doing there? So if normally they would also cut it down early, and you did that, that would show a chazaka, that it would be a chazaka. Let's say you have a piece of land which is, you can't grow anything there. It's very bad land that is full of cracks, and you can't grow anything there. It's also not a chazaka, because the owner wouldn't bother protesting, because I can't grow anything there either. Apikur v'ayilkur also the chazaka. Let's say it does produce, but it produces so little that let's say you spend $100,000 a year on seed, right? And all you're able, the crops that you get out is also $100,000. What would you say there? Bad deal, right? All your work is for nothing. You don't get any more than you planted. That if a field like that doesn't produce more than you put in, meaning it's not profitable to work the field, that's also not a chazaka, because I wouldn't bother protesting. What do I care? You're not doing anything over there. The people of Resh Galusa, these were the rich leaders of Israel who were powerful. They had their own posses, etc. So these people, lo machzikiban, they can't make a chazaka in our land. You know why? Just like we said by the goy, you're not going to protest against them. They're tough people. So if they take a piece of your land and they say, I've been here for 3 years, that's not a chazaka. The reason I protest is because I'm afraid of you guys. Also, and we can't make a chazaka on theirs either. You know why? Because we could say, oh, I've been here for 3 years. They could say, no, we're not worried about 3 years, because they know they could always come and take the land away because they're powerful people. It's like the government. So therefore, you can't make a chazaka on their land. Rashbam says in the third of the wide lines, lo machzikiban, it's not a chazaka because you're afraid that and therefore, if you bought land from them, you better hold on to your star. You better hold on to your star because if you bought a land, if they bought one of the lands, it's not a chazaka, they're afraid. Therefore, they better hold on to their star. If they claim it belongs to them, we didn't protest against them because we're afraid of them. So therefore, they better hold on to their star. Rashbam goes on, since they're rich, they let them be. In other words, if you make a chazak on their land, they don't bother protesting because they're rich and they don't mind if people live there. They're happy you work my field. I could take it back when I want anyway. The teachers are even, they'll take it away anyway because manshiyatsu. And therefore, or because they're busy with tzarchei tzibur, so they don't bother looking at it. In other words, in those cases, chazaka. So chazaka has to be where, number one, you have to occupy it in the way the owner would occupy it. And more than that, it's got to be a situation where he would make a machal. We complain. I'm not going to complain if you're on my land the first 3 years of Arla, because why would I bother? I wouldn't want the land anyway. I can't do anything with the trees anyway. Or if I'm out of town and there is no way for me to know that you are on my land. In other words, it's got to be where a machal would be normal. You're on my land, you're working my land, occupying it normally, and I normally would make a machal if it's my land. If I wouldn't normally make a machal, why? Because the land doesn't produce, or because I'm afraid, or because I'm too busy, or I'm too rich, or whatever, or I don't care for whatever reason, then it's not a chazaka. So that could be in those situations. All right, we'll pick it up from the 2 dots tomorrow, Mr. Shem. Have a good day, everybody. Kol Tov. Erev Tov. Good to see you back, Rami.